Hello and welcome back to Bits and Bobs. In today's video, I'll be showing you my entire collection of pennies. Now, at first thought, a penny might not sound too exciting, but hold your horses because pennies date back from today. They're still being made, still being used. I got one of my change just this morning, and they date right back to 785 AD, predating the Royal Mint. The Royal Mint adopted the penny, not the other way around. So, I'll be showing you my entire collection. So then we begin with the current date, 2025 this year. So here's the first penny. The current design we see here is the hazel dormouse with a leaf beside it, and then to the side there, the one penny with the interlocked C's, representing Charles III, as we can see here to the obverse, the portrait of King Charles III. There's the first one. 2024 one penny is much the same design features as we see, just the different date there, 2024. 2023, as we get, again, this is the first year of this design, the first year of King Charles III. Moving on, before that we have this is the memorial privy. You may have seen the coronation privy on the previous one for 2022, the final penny of Queen Elizabeth II, and here is the standard one released at the start of the year, just the standard 2022 penny. Moving back then into the reign, this is the shield design. So we can see here the designs will all be the same for the next few dates backwards, as these are the ones that made up part of the royal shield, kind of a jigsaw of coins that you'd put together to make the royal shield of arms. This is part of the left side of it, as we can see here. 2019 there is not one for circulation, so this coin is quite much rarer than the others, as is 2018. These two worth about £10 to £15 each, or maybe more, as they are rare coins not for circulation. But apart from those, there's only one other year, and all the rest are circulation coins. So every year the penny has been made since 1971, except 1972, 2018, and 19. So we're continuing on backwards now. But now we do see here 2015, one penny, there's that same design, but notice it says JC, as this is the first year of the Jodie Clark portrait of the Queen. Now before 2015, so that, before that, the portrait used was the IRB portrait. IRB, Ian Rank broadly, and we can see a slightly different design of the Queen for this coin. So then these ones now will be the shield design with Ian Rank broadly for the next dates. 2014 there, 2013 there, and just as a little heads up, if you do wish to sort of skip past any of these coins, if you don't like hammered coins, if you don't like modern coins, then just, skip along and find your favorite era of the penny. Like I say, the penny, these coins are dating back over 1,000 years, so there's lots of dates to get through. 2010 there, very nice. Here we have 2009, as you can see there, we're still with the Ian Rank broadly portrait. And then 2008, we can see here, again the same portrait, but we see it says shield. This is the first year the shield design was released. And so also that year, and then for years prior to this, we have the portcullis design, probably the most famous design of the penny, with the crowned portcullis, the number 1 below, and the wording 1 penny to the top. So that is the design we'll see now all the way back to decimalization as we flick through these years. So there's 2007, 2006, and what I'll do now is I'll slightly speed us up as they are very similar back to decimalization. So 1998 was the first year of the Ian Rank broadly portrait, and then before that we have another Queen's portrait, so 1997, and then prior we have this portrait, which is the third portrait of the Queen by Raphael Macluf, as we can see there. So the next ones we'll see will have that portrait rather than Ian Rank broadly. So here we go, 1996, again that same portrait, and we'll return now to a bit of a speed up, as again the next few coins back are all rather similar. Now, it is worth noting, pre-1992 pennies, so 1991 and backwards, these are all made out of 97% copper. The ones after 1992 are made of steel and simply plated in copper. So these ones are sort of, higher quality, if you will, as they are more quality metals rather than being plated. So all the ones before 1992 are the sort of more standard composition you might imagine, as the coppers back then were actually coppers. Now, 1984, which is what we see next here, is another change of portrait. So this was the last year of the Arnold Machin portrait there. So going backwards in time now, we can see they will all be Arnold Machin portraits. And this was the portrait released especially for decimalization, so the first portrait used on decimal coins. So this portrait and this design will take us back to 1971, the year of decimalization. There is one other change that we can see here. 1981, they say new penny rather than one penny, as for the first 10 years of decimalization, all the coins said they were new, as they were the new coins back then, and that was just to differentiate them and show that they were the new pence rather than the old pence in the system used in Britain. So here we go, then the last few dates of the 1970s. We'll speed through these. Right then, we then come on to 1972, quite a valuable one, about £15 in value, that one there, as that is, as I can say, the third year that didn't go into circulation, as we can see there, very nice. And then the final one, going backwards in time, that is, the first one for decimalization, the 1971 penny. There we go, that was the first coin minted for the pennies for the new decimal system. But now we're back in time, and here we have an example of a pre-decimal penny. You'll notice much larger, and with the Britannia design. I'm sure we all know and love the Britannia design for these pennies. What I'll do now is I'll bring in my tray so we can have an overview. 67, 66, 65. So these are all the Queen Elizabeth II designs. And handily for these, they have the date on the reverse. So we don't really need to see both sides of each coin to get that date of it. As I did want to sort of, although it was a bit of a long process to show all the modern pennies, I did want to sort of prove, that, just for my own sake and for the video's sake, that I do have each date of those, of the current penny, the decimal penny that is. We see Brit on there, the only obverse change, for the Queen Elizabeth pennies. We then got these two, 51 and 50. That is not only back now into the reign of George VI, but also those are very rare and desirable pennies. So again, some key dates to look out for. Then carrying on into the 1940s, as we see, the design was very uniform during this time, with the only change on these coins being the date. As we can see there are a few years not minted in various times. Some of the 40s there and some of the 50s, as we saw, there was a big gap with none minted. We have here a change again of portraits, or rather monarchs. So, oops, wrong one. So 37 and 36 was the change over years. 37 being the first of George VI, and 36 being the last of King George V. So that was the change over year there. Now then into George V pennies, keeping the Britannia design. Then we go 34. There's obviously no 33, as that was only a very rare coin. So that is one that was not in circulation, and it is now one of the collector's favourites of all pennies ever. Probably the most famous and sort of star penny of all of them. If you have a 1933, that's the one people really want. And so to the top of this tray, we're now back into the 1920s, into the 19-teens, back into First World War times, and 1915 there. We then continue backwards in time with the next tray along. So from 1914 there along to 1912, 1911, and 1910, we will pause that again. Many of you will know why. 1911 being the first year of coinage for George V, and 1910 the last year of coinage for King Edward VII. So another changeover year there. But as we can see, the design of Britannia still remains for the reverse. We then go into Edward VII's coinage, 09, 08, 07. As you can see there, quite nice condition coins. As you will note with my own personal collection, the further back we go, the worse quality we get to. We pause again here, and as again, many of you will know why. 1902 being the first year of King Edward VII pennies and coins, and 1901 being the final year for Queen Victorian pennies. So that's right, we've made it over 10 minutes in now. We're finally back to what I would class as old, decently old coins, now back to the reign of Queen Victoria. So here we go, the late 1890s to begin with. There are small changes to the Britannia design, but again, this will remain largely the same throughout. We will pause here again. I believe it's 1993 or 4. 94, yes, is the last year of the young head, and then the first year of the veiled head, and the last year of the young head there, as it is backwards for us as we're going backwards in time. Carrying on then, so these will all be young head Victoria pennies, sometimes known as bun head pennies. Looking along there, we can see the Jubilee year there, 1887, 86, 85, 84, 83. I do have the full set, as we will find out and see, but like I warned you, the quality does severely degrade as we get into this era, and so upgrades will definitely be needed going forward for my collection, for these older pennies. Right then, so that's the end of this second tray, back to 75, then 74, and continuing onwards. So these ones are now 100 years in circulation. These ones would have been used up until 1971. And so after doing a century of circulating, most of these coins are very worn, and the high-grade examples do command, if you'll excuse the pun, a pretty penny. So that's why, I don't have the best condition coins here, but I always will and hope to be looking out for upgrades. And there are a few nice coins in terms of condition here, but, some of them like that one there, the 1861, are not very good at all. But we are now back to 1860, as we can see there, which looks like a lovely coin. It's holed, but I've got a very nice example despite the hole. And this is the first year of the bronze penny, these coins being 97% copper, with a bit of alloy in there, so they are bronze. That's a lovely coin. Now, before 1860, before this coin here, the coins were copper, so 100% copper, and much larger. This is my first one I don't have, 1859, 58, 57, 56. We have here these three of the Victorian copper pennies. Some of these dates are very rare, but these ones that I have aren't particularly hard to find. We have 1855, and you'll notice they are very thick, big, chunky, heavy copper coins. Good to fondle, feel, and hold. We have an 1854 there, the year before, not quite as nice condition-wise. And then I have an 1853 as well. These ones only just about fit in the tray, which is quite handy. Luckily, they weren't any bigger. This one's very damaged, but we can just about see 1853 for that one there. Very nice. Now you will see above this, I have a very big gap here. 51, 49, 8, 7, 6, all the 40s practically, as we can see. These are all very rare coins that I will be, obviously hoping to add to my collection, but currently don't have any of these coins, unfortunately. But then we come back to the reign of George IV, and I do have this penny here. This is, as we see, an 1826 penny. Lovely, lovely coin. Whoops. As you can see, just a great coin. One thing you can't experience through the video is the feel of these coins. They do feel really good. But as we can see through the video, it also does look very nice indeed, and it's practically 200 years old now. So we're 200 years back into the life of the penny. As we see there, another one here from 1825. Not quite as nice condition, but still that same lovely design of coin. Then we have this one here, my next one along, or back in time rather. This is a George III, 1807. So quite a nice coin. Again, very large coin indeed, with a lovely design, quite high relief back in its day. We can still see some of the high relief features, even though it's worn. So that's a good sign that it was, very strongly struck. And of course, copper is a very soft metal, so that would have been stamped in very nicely to begin with. So these do always look lovely and high grade. That was my 1806 there. Then the oldest copper penny anyone has, as it is the first year they were made in copper, is the one coming up next. I just apologise for trying to get it out of the tray here. It only just fits in. This is the cartwheel penny. Now somewhere I do have a higher grade example, but funnily enough, I actually had to use the worn example, as that was the only one that fit in the tray. But This is 1797 penny, cartwheel penny, the first year they were minted in copper. Before then, we're now on to silver pennies. So let's have a look here. My only real sort of milled silver penny is this one. Well, I mean, I don't know why I said that with a bit of hesitation. This is my only milled silver penny, a George II penny. These are very, very small coins, very tiny, but are very cool pieces of history to own. Now, as that's my only milled one, we're now back onto hammered coins. So here is a Charles I penny. Again, very, very small, but we can see it is silver. Now, the condition of this coin is quite dreadful, to be honest, but I bought it for £1, and, can't really go wrong with that price. And it does technically mean I have a Charles I penny, although, a nicer condition coin would be nice at some point. Speaking of a nice coin, here we have a Henry VIII silver penny. Now, if I just sort of zoom in here, we can see the portrait in all of its glory. The famous forward-facing bust of Henry with his famous beard. Quite a recognizable portrait despite its age. And I got it for a good price, as you can see there. But there we go. So we're now sort of 500 years back into the life of the penny. Very, very old indeed. Back to the Tudor times. We'll stay zoomed in. Edward IV penny here. We can see the dates. This, again, not great, really. The portrait is gone, but we can see a bit of the long cross design there. More of a coin where the identification is more important than the looks, if you will. Henry V, though, lovely coin here. Henry V, one of my favourite monarchs, and we can see him quite clearly here on this penny of his reign. This is now 600 years ago. Very nice indeed. Beautiful stuff. Then back on to Edward III, another great monarch who reigned for 50 years back in the 1300s. There is his portrait, and then we can see the design there to the reverse as well. Quite nice coins, I must say. Then going back, we have Edward II. So again, 700 years ago kind of era. And look at this. This is a beautiful penny. Truly great coin there. Lovely portrait. Everything you'd really want from a hammered coin. This is a lovely coin indeed. And comment down below your favourite era of penny. Do you like the modern pennies, the pre-decimal pennies, the hammered pennies, the milled pennies? I don't know myself, but I might be tempted by those big copper pennies, despite these hammered ones being absolutely lovely. And there we go. This is Edward I, and that is actually a really good portrait for the age. Like, that's probably made in the 1200s, that coin, so you can't complain at all about the bit of condition that coin. Henry III now, and look at this, one of my favourite pennies in the collection, because we have a lovely, lovely portrait of King Henry III, and then this is a short cross design. So before the long cross, we had the short cross. There it is, and still pretty good condition for that Henry III penny. A classic now for my collection, the King John penny. What a beauty that is. We can see basically all the detail of its portrait when you get it in the right light. You can really see the eyes, the sort of nose, the mouth, the beard, all of the portrait details for King John, of course, who famously signed the Magna Carta, so a monarch with, good history. Then, moving back, we have here my oldest penny, from Athelred II, penny of 978 to 1016, so over 1,000 years old. Think about that. That's amazing, in my opinion. I've got to say it. And look at that. After 1,000 years, we can still clearly see the portrait. Facing left, good detail. It is a very cracked coin, and it has been heavily clipped and damaged and so on and so forth. But almost that's kind of a good thing, because that tells it's had a journey and a history over this last 1,000 years. And there we go. Very, very cool indeed. There we go. Now, there is a few coins we missed. These two. So these are pennies. These are Maundy pennies. So they're issued not for circulation, but we can see it is a penny. They are legal tender coins as issued. They would be accepted, if you will, but they weren't put out into circulation. One from 1899, one from William IV. So I didn't have a William IV circulation penny, but I do technically, well, not technically, I do have one, as these are, pennies still. As you see, very small, that one there from 1835, which means, overall, here we have the collection of pennies. Wow. Alfred II, John, Henry III, Edward I, II, III, Henry V, Edward IV, Henry VIII, Charles I, George II, George III, George IV, William IV, Victoria, Edward VII, George V, George VI, Queen Elizabeth II up to present day with His Majesty King Charles III, and that is 20 different monarchs, 20 pennies of 20 different monarchs. How many monarchs do you have on your penny collection? Do comment down below. Please subscribe as well. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bits and Bobs.